tell me everything from the start.
This story is a long one, dear detective, but I must insist I am no madman. My only hope is to outline what has happened. In truth, a series of events.
Before all this, I was a simple man. My wife and I married very young, and we adopted a new home and several pets of our own, one of which was a cat. This amazingly large and beautiful animal, all black, was amazingly intelligent. Pluto, this was the cat's name, was my favorite pet and playmate. Our friendship lasted in this manner for several years. However, very swiftly my mood worsened day after day. I would argue with my wife, even hit her sometimes. And this damn disease, this alcohol, was like a demon that overtook my body, and soon it possessed me to attack my beloved Pluto. I had been drinking severely, and then I saw the damn cat, which had been avoiding me. I seized him, causing him a fright to inflict a wound on my hand. Not knowing who I was, like I was possessed, I used a kitchen knife, and I stabbed one of the beast's eye from the socket. I experienced a half sentiment of horror for the crime of which I had been guilty. I again plunged into excess and soon drowned in wine of all memory of the deed. Over time, the socket of the cat healed. However, he would forever be terrified of me. This caused a change within me from guilt to irritation, till finally, perverseness.
Detective, have you ever heard of the term perverseness? It is essentially the want to do something that is seen as wrong or unjustly. Take, for example, a child. If you tell it to not take cookies from the jar, of course it's gonna take cookies from the jar. If anything, it'll feel more inclined to do so. That is truly what possessed me, the spirit of perverseness. So do not blame me for what I am about to say. Blame the spirit of perverseness.
One morning in cold blood, I slipped a noose around its neck and hung it to the limb of a tree. Hung it with tears streaming from my eyes and the bitterest remorse at my heart. Hung it because I knew that it had loved me. Hung it because I knew that in doing so I was sinning beyond the most merciful, most terrible God. On the night of which this cruel deed was done, I was aroused from sleep by the cry of the fire. The whole house was blazing. It was with great difficulty that my wife and myself made our escape from the conflagration. The destruction was complete. And to worsen the situation, we had escaped into our front yard, the very location from which I had hung our little Pluto.
What happened next?
For months, I could not rid of myself of the phantasm of the cat. I went so far as to regret the loss of the animal, and very quickly wished for a cat of similar appearance.
One night as I sat, a black object attracted my attention in the distance. A large cat similar to Pluto's size, closely resembling him. Upon touching him, he showed me with such kindness, putting at the touch of my hand, I knew this was the creature I've been searching for. At once, I offered to purchase it of the landlord, but this person did not claim it, knew nothing of it, had never seen it before. I continued to caress it, and it followed me home. When I returned, the cat became a favorite of my wife.
For my part, I quickly saw that I was starting to despise it. This was exactly the opposite of what I had expected. However, its obvious liking for me revolted and irritated me. This gradually intensified into hatred. I stayed away from the creature because I felt guilty about my previous harsh act. I avoided using it forcefully or striking it for a few weeks, but over time, I developed an intense dislike for it and began to shy away from it in silence.
Despite that, my wife was infatuated with this new cat, spent every second with it, and seemed completely unbothered. But the more I tried to avoid it, the more it seemed to obsess over me. Whenever I sat down, it always jumped onto me and smothered me with kisses, followed my every footstep, every breath. I wanted dearly to destroy it, yet the only reason I did not was for absolute dread of the beast. One day, she accompanied me upon some household errand into the cellar of an old building which our poverty compelled us to inhabit. The cat followed me down the steep stairs and, nearly throwing me headlong, exasperated me into madness. So I tried to strike it. This hideous murder accomplished, I set myself forthwith, and with entire deliberation, to the task of concealing the body. I knew I could not remove it from the house, either by day or by night, without the risk of being observed by the neighbors. Thus I determined to wall it up in the cellar, as the monks of the Middle Ages are recorded to have walled up their victims. The next thing I aimed to do was to get rid of that stupid cat, yet I could not find it anywhere. For a moment, I panicked until I realized what a blessing this was. That night I slept with such tranquility, even after taking the life of my wife. In 4 days, a young, bright detective had arrived at my doorstep and promptly allowed himself to search the house. We had gone down to the cellar together. However, I did not hesitate in my steps, for I felt no embarrassment. He surveyed every single corner and every crevice of the basement, and I knew he would not find the body. However, the moment I believed that he was about to leave our place, a voice from the grave answered, a muffled and broken cry, like the sobs of a child.
Look more sad. There you go.
Oh yeah.